right, there's a little bit of a money trail to follow here in this next story, so we'll try to walk through it as easily as we can. The foreign minister of Russia just came out a few moments ago and is now denying his country is sending attack helicopters to Syria. This, as Moscow is accusing the United States of arming the rebels there on the ground. Now, this follows a day after the Obama administration accused Russia of supplying helicopters to the Assad regime. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is very concerned about what that could lead to.
We are concerned about the latest information we have that there are attack helicopters on the way from Russia to Syria, which will escalate the conflict quite dramatically.
Now, we reach out to the State Department just real quick here to get some clarity on that statement, because Russia has been supplying helicopters to Syria for years. So whether the Secretary of State meant new equipment or new supplies, that's another question. Jonathan Schanzer is here. He's with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He's also the author of Al-Qaeda's Armies. And Jonathan, nice to have you back with us. This is a big topic. Let's follow the money here. Why is Russia even involved with Syria to begin with?
Well, Syria is Russia's cash cow. The Russians have been losing arms markets all around the region. The toppling of Libya, the sanctions against Iran. You have to remember the USSR was the primary purveyor of arms to the Arab world until the United States came in really in 1991, toppled Iraq. So in other words, the U.S. has been steadily gaining market share in the Middle East. The last real remaining base that the Russians have is in the western town of Tartus. It's a port on the Mediterranean coast in Syria, and the Russians have 600 people right there refurbishing that base. This is their primary client, and they do not want to lose it.
So, as we mentioned, we know that Russia's been doing this for a long time, though. So, the Secretary of State coming out just yesterday and saying she's concerned about this. Do you think there's a strategy involved? Is there a precursor here to potentially a no-fly zone being established? What do you think's behind this concern now?
Well, I think now that they have some specific intelligence, I think it has a little bit more poignancy to it. I mean, let's just put this in perspective. The Russians provided 78% of all arms to the Syrians between 2007 and 2011, and that included fighter aircraft, light aircraft, missile systems. So what we have right now is a specific and credible report that the U.S. can release that sort of shames the Russians. I'm not sure it'll work, though.
So, Jonathan, if we cut off Russia from Syria, I don't even know if that's possible, but if that relationship was broken, would the Assad regime fall?
Well, I think it is a serious crutch for the Syrian regime. I don't know how we can cut off the Russians. The Russians are pretty brazen about this, and they're not interested in curtailing this relationship because it's so lucrative. But the other crutch that the Syrians lean on is the Iranians. And they've been providing assistance on the ground, personnel, and even some fighters, the IRGC in particular. So that's the other leg that we need to kick out from under the Syrians if this is to stop.
Let me ask you about another item that the Secretary of State covered yesterday. She said that she's increasingly concerned about, obviously, what's happening in Syria, but that there's a lot of money just flowing into the country. And she said there's many Arab countries involved that are also arming the rebels. So if Russia is arming Syria, and you mentioned Iran also arming the government in Syria, who's at play with the rebels? Are we at play? Is what Russia had to say about us today true, or is there somewhere else we should be looking?
Well, we haven't really seen evidence of the United States providing direct support to the Syrian opposition. In fact, we've seen real reticence on the part of the White House. But what we are seeing is the country of Qatar, and particularly Saudi Arabia. I just published a piece yesterday in the Weekly Standard noting that there is now a campaign underway where Saudi clerics are raising millions of dollars and funneling it all through terrorist organizations, actually, and going to the Syrian opposition. So I think you're going to see a lot of Arab money flowing there. And don't forget, the Saudis are no fans of the Russians. And so this is sort of a proxy battle going on right now between the Saudis and the Russians.
Just real quick, what does that mean? If all that Saudi money is flowing into terrorist organizations, any threat to our national security?
Well, certainly, I think you could see a new Muj problem. Remember that the Saudis funded the Mujahideen in Afghanistan in the 1980s. Now imagine if this is the new front and they're pouring money and personnel into Syria. You've got a potentially dangerous jihadi front brewing in Syria, and this is of major concern.
Wow, that brings us to a whole new conversation about what we do next, Jonathan. We'll have to have you back to have that conversation, though. I appreciate your insights as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.